You'd think that people would have had enough of a silly love song. But I look around me and I see it isn't so. Some people want to fill the world with silly love songs. And what's wrong with that? I'd like to know. 'Cause here I
For our
go.
last show before Christmas of 1979, we present Wings, our opening music, because tonight we have with us two members of that fantastically successful musical organization. It is one of the most successful recording groups in the world today. And Paul McCartney and his wife Linda are standing by on stage in London tonight via satellite before one of their concerts at the Rainbow Theatre across the Atlantic. They'll talk about their group, they'll do a bit of reminiscing, they'll talk about their dreams, their life as a family, and what's in store for Wings and Paul and Linda McCartney in the future. And joining them a little bit later on tonight will be two other members of the organization, Laurence Juber and Denny Laine. On Wednesday, October 24th of this year, the editor of the Guinness World Book of Records presented Paul McCartney with a rhodium record to signify all his musical achievements in the record industry. Incidentally, rhodium is said to be twice as valuable as gold, silver, and platinum. Here are some facts and figures. Paul is in the Guinness World Book of Records for the most successful composer of all time. He wrote 43 songs between 1962 and 1978, each of which sold over 1 million copies. He holds the record number of gold discs, 42 with the Beatles, 17 with Wings, and 1 with Billy Preston. He is also the world's most successful single recording artist. That's hard to say as well as imagine. He has sold 100 million singles. That's estimated record sales, 100 million singles, which each sold 100 million each. That is an awful lot of entertainment and an awful lot of records. And we're pleased that Paul McCartney and his wife Linda will take time to sit with us tonight before they go on stage at the Rainbow Theatre over in London, and we'll be able to hear them in just a couple of seconds. Now, can I tell you just a little bit about the equipment we're using? We're using the satellite to get from London to New York and back again. And I'm able to see Paul and Linda on a television set which we use here at NBC, which you may have seen on some of our other programs. We use it on the primetime Sunday night show on the weekends, and it's also used on the Today Show Monday through Friday. It's made by the Sony Corporation, and all the instrumentation, which you can't see because we have it blocked out, but all the dials like contrast and volume and brightness and vertical hold and horizontal hold have got Japanese writing on, because this television set is not sold domestically in the U.S. at this time. One night I asked one of the engineers why we can't buy these for home use, because as you can see, the picture is fantastic, and it is half again as big as a 23 or a 25-inch screen. And the man said to me, well, the reason that you can't buy that in the store is because it hasn't been cleared or certified or approved by the government of the United States because of the radiation factor. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, that thing pumps out so many volts that if you sit as close to it as you do, we kind of expect you to glow when you walk out of here on Sunday night. You know, NBC and its worries about the well-being of its employees says, hey, put the guy out there at the radiation machine. Let him get a dose. What do we care? We'll get somebody else. Huh, dare you. I can hear you, Paul, but it's not time yet. Just stand by for a second now. Just cool it, Paul. Okay, all right. We have a little clip I want to play for everybody here in the States before we get to Paul and Linda in London. Paul and members of the band Wings prepared a videotape. It's a very clever piece of videotape to go along as sort of a visual counterpart to their latest album, which is called Back to the Egg. So let's take a look now at one of the songs they'll probably perform tonight at the Rainbow Theatre in London. It's a hard-driving rock number called Spin It On, and here it comes.
Spin it on,
music of Paul and Linda McCartney and Wings, something called Spin It On. How do they do that without getting dizzy? I know. Ask them, and we will. After these words from our sponsors, Paul and Linda McCartney on the Tomorrow Program's Christmas show for 1979. We'll be right back.
The mood is right, the spirit's up. We're here tonight, and that's enough. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time.
Now to London and Paul and Linda McCartney, who are standing by on stage of the Rainbow Theatre there. What time do you go on tonight, Linda and Paul?
About an hour's time, Tom.
Are you relaxed before a concert like this, or do you get a little bit jittery?
Yeah, a little bit, you know, but generally speaking, relaxed. You can tell, can't you?
I certainly can. Right here at the start, I just want to ask you about how they handle crowds there. You know, we had an incident here in the United States in Cincinnati a week, 10 days ago, where some people were killed because of a rush of the crowd into the theater there.
Last night?
Well, yes, it was last night, but actually this won't be shown until a week and a half from now. So as I was saying, a week and a half ago. And I just wonder how, at the concerts that you have in the United Kingdom and elsewhere, how they handle the crowds and how they try to make certain that people have safety when they get in and get out.
Well, it seems that the Who thing was because they had something like 17,000 people trying to go through just a couple of doors. Normally when they have that kind of seating called festival seating, everyone's got to rush in. And if they let them in 15 doors, then it lessens the crush. But I understand from the Who concert that they only let them in through a couple of doors, so there was a big crush. So normally we try and just have more doors and more supervision.
What are the problems of, you know, putting on a concert of the magnitude that you people do? Big audiences, you know, inside.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the problem that the Who had, you know, with theirs, is that if you get that many people, they're very hard to control. So you've got to be very careful to have enough people to sort of look after them, you know, enough staff at the place, and enough doors and enough stuff. So if they're all going to run in, then at least there's only a few of them running in each door, instead of 17,000 all in one door.
Linda, how did you get to be a member of Wings?
Well, Paul wasn't doing anything with music, so he just said, do you want to start a group? And I just said yes, not thinking too critically about it. I didn't know how to play then at all. Don't know much.
You had no musical background at all when you were growing up on Long
No,
Island?
I just really loved rock and roll. You know, I was a 50s girl. I grew up outside New York. So I really didn't know any keyboards at all.
Well, now, in that clip that we showed at the top of Spin It On, you appeared to be quite professional in your handling of the instrument there, the guitar. How did you pick that up? It hasn't been that long a period.
Actually, I was playing piano. Well, I've been playing for a few years now. Paul just showed me middle C and said, you learn the rest. So I've learned chords, really.
Yeah, but how do you...
That guitar shot you saw was, that was just mime. That was for the TV thing. She wasn't actually playing, Tom.
Well, you could have fooled me.
Yeah, well, we did.
Yes, you did. What was the genesis of Wings, Paul? When did you decide that you wanted to get back into it? You'd been away from it for a while.
Yeah, well, the Beatles had split up round about the end of the 60s, and I was either just going to kind of sit around and rest on my laurels for the rest of my life, or I was going to get out and start a new band and keep doing it. And we made that decision. We thought, well, we'll do it that way. And so it was just a kind of overnight thing. I asked Linda if she wanted to be in it, and she said, yeah, okay. I don't think quite realizing what she was getting into. And I rang up Denny, who's one of the fellas in the group, Denny Laine, and he said he fancied doing it, so we were off, you know. And we've had a couple of personnel changes since then, but we've got a nice lineup now.
When you start a group like that, how do you put it together and give it a sound and give it an identity and make certain that it's going to be okay once you get it before an audience?
You don't know, you know, you just trust to your judgment, you just hope you're lucky, and you just work hard.
But where did you play first? I'm certain you didn't go into a big auditorium or a big arena first. What kind of places when you're starting out do you play?
Well, what we did, we all got in the back of a transit van and we took the dogs and the kids and everything. And without planning any gigs or anything, we just took off up the motorway. And the first place we got to was a university in Nottingham, a college. And one of our fellas went in. Well, we had 2 roadies with us, and one of them went in and asked the students, said, "Do you want Paul McCartney and Wings to play here tomorrow?" And the fella luckily said yes. So we charged 50p on the door, and we played in the lunchroom. And that's how we got started out, you know, the second time around.
How did it go in the lunchroom? Linda, I assume that you were there for that.
Lots of good food.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was really great, you know.
What kind of response from that first audience that you played for?
Well, they couldn't believe it at first, but we were so green, having never played before, that we really enjoyed it, and they enjoyed it. It was great. It's funny playing when it was light outside, because in the lunchroom you could see all the trees and everything.
But the trouble was we only had about 10 numbers or so, you know, to do, so we had to keep pretending we had requests, and we said, "We got a big request to do Lucille for the 3rd time." So we got around it that way.
At what point did Wings and you feel comfortable playing the music that you played with the Beatles?
Quite a bit after we started the group, because at first we thought, well, we don't really want to kind of just go around playing Beatles stuff, because people are going to make big comparisons and say, oh, they're not as good as the Beatles were, which would be very hard to do, you know, with a new group, seeing as the Beatles are together for well over 10 years. So it was a couple of years after that, and nowadays we kind of just figure that they're my songs that I wrote, most of the ones we do, and people want to hear them, so we've got comfortable with it now and we do them.
Linda, how does being with this organization differ from what you thought it would be like? You said that you were a child of the 50s growing up outside of New York. You liked rock and roll, you liked the action, you liked the music, the groups, etc. Now, how does being with a group differ from what you thought it was when you were growing up with it?
It's really good fun, and the group we're with now is great. There are a lot more pressures than I thought there'd be. But when I was a photographer in New York, I learned about the pressures of the music business. You know, it's not all just fun and peace and light, but I really enjoy it.
Is that right? Yeah.
What are some of the pressures of the music business?
Just people. It's a bit like school, to tell you the truth. Some of it, I mean, most of it isn't, but if the small pressures are that you're criticized a lot, as if a teacher was telling you didn't do that right and you didn't do this right, that kind of thing. So, you know, when you were a kid, you always thought when you grew up you could tell the teachers, well, you know, I'll do it my way. But you find that doesn't really happen.
That was, I was going to say, it's a nice little line you threw in there, I'll do it my way.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good song, don't you think?
Yeah, but very spontaneous sounding. You ought to write it down, one of you, and maybe go to work on it when you get home tonight, huh?
Right.
Okay. Let me do commercials here. We'll be right back to you if you'll stand by for a couple of minutes. Paul and Linda McCartney in London. We'll be back from New York and London after this for the NBC television stations.
Okay.
Back now with Linda and Paul from London and yours truly from New York. When you go on tour, are you able to take the family with you? Kids, dogs, all that stuff?
Not the dogs, but we take the kids, yeah.
And the camels.
How do you make do? It's difficult, you know, for children on the road when mom and pop are working. How's that time occupied?
Well, the way we did it, for instance, like on a big tour we went on in the States in '76, what we did was we hired a house wherever we were sort of playing, and we went out of a base, like we hired a house in Dallas. And then we'd be with the kids all day, all morning, until about kind of 5 o'clock in the evening. And then we'd go out and we'd fly to somewhere like, let's say, Fort Worth or Houston or somewhere. Mm-hmm. And we'd do the gig, and then we'd fly back. So we'd be back about 1 in the morning. So it was, for the kids, it was as if we'd been out just for the evenings. Then we'd wake up with them the next morning. So, in other words, the main reason we did it was that if we're out on tour doing that kind of thing, and someone rings up from England and says, oh, one of your kids is really ill or something, then it's panic for us, you know. So we'd rather have them with us, and we take care that they haven't got kind of too hectic a scene. And it's almost like being on holiday for the kids.
Linda, how old are the children now?
They range from 2 to almost 17. Like that, like that.
Now, the ones that are older, how aware are they of how famous and popular and revered and adored and worshipped you and Paul are, and Wings?
Well, Paul is, not me. They're aware of it. I don't think they get taken away by it, because we treat them and bring them up as normal as possible. But obviously they're aware of it. But they don't show off about it or anything.
Do they like the music? Are they into it? Fans of it?
Yeah.
Our eldest daughter prefers, well, I don't know about prefers, but she buys what we call new wave stuff over here. Because she gets ours free anyway.
When you say new wave, would that be what we call here in the States punk rock, or did call for a while?
Yeah, that kind of stuff, you know, yeah, young bands, you know, just starting. There's quite a few good ones here in America. And she's probably more into that than she is to our stuff. She's very loyal to us, though. Of course, I beat her up every evening with a big stick. I say, Wings, I love Wings, Wings. And it gets in eventually.
I think we've seen the sign on the marquee out front of the theater there that says Wings is sold out tonight. It doesn't appear that Wings is in any kind of trouble right now.
Well, we keep trying, you know.
How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it current? How do you keep them coming in?
I think the trick is we enjoy doing it. We've been making records together for about a year with this band. And so it's good fun now to go on the road and to do the songs to people. It's a new experience that we're still enjoying. I suppose when we don't enjoy it, we'll knock it on the head. But at the moment, we're enjoying it.
Linda, how do you think audiences react to you? I think most of them know by now that you've come a long way very, very quickly as a performer and as a musician. How do you think they feel about that? Do you get any feedback like, hey, she did too much too quickly, or didn't pay her dues, or who does she think she is? Because
where's she coming from?
Where am I coming from, you mean? I never, tell you the truth, felt audiences, you know, rejected me or didn't like me that much. Obviously, even they're getting better now that they feel I've played a bit. Critics didn't like me very much. I don't think they still do. But that's their problem, isn't it, Tom?
Mm-hmm. As long as the audience is like you, never mind the critics.
That's what I mean. I've gone to a lot of shows where I've really enjoyed the shows, and then I read a critic write about it the next day, and he writes something totally different. So what can you do? If you're part of the audience and you like it, that's what really matters.
I know this is old ground for you, Linda, but a lot of people who are watching this haven't heard or read the story about how you and Paul met. You know, how a cherubic woman from Long Island who was into photography married one of the Beatles.
Cherubic?
Yeah.
Cherubic I'm not. Actually, I'm from Westchester County, not Long Island.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, I'll forgive
will
you,
be.
Tom. I was in London on a photographic assignment down at a club. I went to see Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames, who's a British group. And Paul was down there. Were you not?
And I picked her up.
He picked me up just like that.
Simple as that, Tom.
Very romantic.
What I love you coming down to speak, you know. Yeah, there we are. Never look back.
Like many young people meet.
How has your life changed, Paul, from the time that you were with the other group, the Beatles, and you had a lot of groupies following you around and a lot of adoring, worshiping fans, and now you've kind of settled down? Can you draw some comparisons about what you like about this lifestyle that you have now as compared to what it was before?
Yeah, I think the main difference is that when you are that age, which I'm sure you'll remember, Tom.
It's back there in the dim, distant past, yes.
So, look like that. When you're that age, that's the kind of thing to do. I mean, what you're doing is you're going around and you're basically looking for girls or whatever turns you on and stuff. So,
Well, could you give me the alternatives to girls? Are there others?
Yes, boys.
Oh, no.
Since we're very free thinking these days, Tom. No, but I mean, in my case, anyway, it was girls, and I did a lot of all that back then. And when we got married, that's probably the big change, is that I don't do that no more.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more.
That's what I tell the wife, anyway.
Right.
You know. Now, we've got 4 kids now, so that changes your lifestyle a lot. But I really like it, you know, because it's progress for me, you know, because I was still doing all that, living the same way I used to live. It was very hectic and staying up all night and stuff. I think I'd be well clapped out by now.
So then you don't miss the former lifestyle. You know, a lot of guys who would have had your success and your fame and your following might wish that sort of thing to go on forever. Yet one day you said, I've had enough of that. I want to, forgive the term, settle down and have a family and be with somebody I like and somebody I love. And you didn't miss all that other thing, or you don't seem to miss it.
Not really, no. I mean, what can you do, Tom?
His hands are tied, Tom.
No, it's true, actually. You know, I think the thing in my case is I'd done so much of it. And I've been knocking around the world with the Beatles for a good 10 years there. And when the time came to get married, I'd sown my wild oats, or whatever you say, you know, so I'd had enough. And I was quite ready to just kind of settle down and see what happened. And through the years, we've had kids and stuff, and it's just an education seeing kids grow up. And it's a cabaret, too.
Cut.
No,
The wife is vetoing the
I want
answer.
to just ask Linda one thing about it. Here in this country, whenever they interview the wives of professional athletes, popular football or baseball players, the question is often asked, look, there are women in the stands who think your husbands are terrifically attractive and very strong and very powerful, and they meet them for autographs or whatever, and how do you handle that? I'm certain that there are fans of Paul's that would very much like to have a cup of coffee with him or something.
A cup of coffee?
And do you and he talk about that, or joke about it, or talk about it and try and keep it in perspective?
Well, we used to a lot more, have a laugh about it or talk about it, but I think now we've been through it for so long that we just smile about it.
Don't do it no more, Tom. Don't do it no more.
Tune in next week, Tom.
I'll try one more time at this. How hard do you have to work at making your family life succeed, considering the high pressure and high publicity parts of your lives?
Yeah, we have to work at it a little bit, because we have to talk to the kids about it, because they want to know. I mean, I remember one of the kids coming up to me once and saying, "You're Paul McCartney," you know. And it was a bit funny, really, because having them say it, you know, was a bit weird. But we just sit them down, kind of talk to them about it, and just ask them what they feel about it. And they're pretty normal, you know. We work at keeping them normal. We send them to an ordinary school over here, instead of sending them to sort of high-paying fee schools and stuff. So we just work at keeping them normal, and that's one of the reasons we try and be with them a lot, because I think one of the things in showbiz is people, through no fault of their own, always feel they have to be away. If their agent says you're going to Las Vegas, then they might leave the kids in New York, you know. And we just don't happen to have ever done it like that. Even when we're going on holiday and stuff, we've never actually had a holiday away from the kids, because they're not a headache to us. We actually enjoy them, you know.
Like
As I say, it's... So,
like the Christmas holiday. What will you do for the Christmas holiday?
we'll be at home with the kids.
When you want to get away from it all, where do you go? To your farm?
Yeah, we've got a farm up in Scotland, and that's pretty private up there, you know. And the neighbours are kind of about 5 miles away, you know. And so we get up there and visit our sheep.
And our horses.
Visit your what? How many sheep do you have up there?
Sheep.
How many?
300, Tom.
Do you shear them?
I don't do them all,
He does about
but
12.
I do some of them. Actually, I tell you, we're on the new electric clippers now. We used to do it by hand. We've found out about these new things called electric clippers. Get a lot more done, Tom.
Do sheep like being sheared, do you think?
No.
I don't know. It's not as bad as being killed.
True. And what about the wool from the sheep? Where does the wool go?
We sell it to, actually, it's one of these things over here. They've got a kind of government body called the Wool Marketing Board, and you've got to sell it to them for various reasons and stuff. But we'd actually like to make it up into, to find someone make it up into blankets and stuff for ourselves. But we sell it to this Wool Marketing Board, and they give us, you know, whatever the going price is. But it's actually, the reason we sell the wool is because a lot of other sheep farmers have to send the sheep off for meat. And we decided a few years ago that we didn't need to do that, so we wouldn't. So they all die of old age up at our place. But wool is now coming back as a fibre. This is an interesting program, isn't it? Wool. Over to you, Tom.
All right, back to the commercials. We'll continue from London and New York after these words from our sponsors.
Blast off!
Blast Off with Paul and Linda McCartney, who are at the Rainbow Theatre in London, and they're about, I guess, 45 minutes to an hour away from showtime over there. Speaking of showtime, there has been talk here, and I was told about it, that you're playing a concert for on behalf of the Cambodians at some point. Is there any date set for that yet as to when that might happen?
Yeah, it's in between Christmas and New Year. I think it's going to be the 29th of December.
That's right.
What was the motivation for doing that?
The plight of the kids in Cambodia. A lot of people have, you know, been asking various people if they'd do something. And originally we got asked by some fellow who's supposed to be from the United Nations. But he turned out to be a hoax, and he was going around asking everyone. But eventually I got a letter from Kurt Waldheim, who's the Secretary of the United Nations, and he said, "It's for real this time. Do you want to do something?" So we fixed up with our promoter over here. We fixed up about a week of concerts with other acts doing other nights, and all the profits from that are going to go to the Cambodia thing via United Nations. So hopefully that'll do a bit of good.
Is this the first time that you have done anything that could be considered political?
Well, I don't think about it as political. I mean, I think about it just as kind of human, really. I mean, when
let me retract the word political then, and then insert the word for a cause, a worthy cause.
I've done a couple of things. I'm not really very political myself, because you go around in circles with a lot of politics. But the only other time I can really remember was in Ireland. There was a really bad day when the British paratroopers killed some people who were innocent bystanders. And this got a lot of feeling going in Britain that for the first time since I could remember anyway, there was people who were in the British Army, and they seemed to be doing stuff that didn't seem to be too moral. So the day after that, I wrote a song called "Give Ireland Back to the Irish," which was promptly banned in England. It was #1 in Spain and Ireland. And that's the only other time I can remember, really.
Now, when you do that sort of a thing, what kind of feedback do you get?
Well, I had the man who was the head of the record company that was releasing it rang me up and said, "You don't really want to release this record?" And I said, "Yeah, I do really, although I'm not very political. It's the first time I've really felt that something was going wrong, you know, and that people were doing the wrong thing." And I said, I think it ought to come out. And he gave me all the reasons why it shouldn't come out, you know, and all of that. But we still went ahead with it.
When you two separate yourselves from the profession of music and look around the world at all the things that have been happening, the crisis now between Iran and the United States, and inflation and the high cost of living, do you think about that? Do you worry about things like that? It seems to me to be impossible, really, to divorce yourself from the outside world and all the things that we mere mortals go through.
Yeah, well, actually, we are mere mortals too, Tom. Pinchable and bleedable and everything. And yeah, we read the papers and look at the news, same as anyone does. And whenever these crises come up, you know, you feel very worried about it. Generally, I don't know about all the inflation stuff. I just hope that's going to get sorted out. Let's face it, people have been worrying about inflation for a long time. This isn't a new problem. I know it's become a new problem for us, but it's been going on a long time, that. And we're just on the side of good and right, you know. You don't always know what that is. But like most people, you know, we want to kind of see the right thing done in the world so that our kids can live, you know, through it all.
Linda, what are you concerned about? you know, when you think of your children growing up and becoming adults and making their way through life, do you have any concerns or worries or fears about them in the future?
Oh, I could go on hours about what I think about things, but I just would like to see political leaders be more involved with the people of their own country and not always try to win elections so much. I'd like to see them more involved with making life easier and nicer for people. I'd like to see a lot less industry and a lot more natural living. But as I say, I could talk about this forever. When you say, what do we think about when we hear what's going on in the world, we talk about it a lot, and we talk to a lot of just ordinary people about what they think. And you find ordinary people really just want peace and, you know, a nice house to live in and a bit of food. They don't really want as much materialism as we think they do. You know, as I say, go on forever, Tom.
How often do you miss living in Westchester County?
Never.
Not ever?
I don't miss it. No, I don't really miss America. I like America. I lived in Arizona for a while, and I really loved it out there. But I don't miss it. I think England's a really nice place. The people are really nice here. I don't live here for the weather, mind you.
When you were a photographer, what was your area of expertise?
People, mainly. I've since, well, you know, people and music, but also people and nature and, I don't know, sunsets, a lot of things.
Well, who did
Children.
who did you take pictures for?
I started taking pictures when I lived in Tucson, Arizona. Somebody just turned me on to it. And then when I moved to New York, because I always loved music, I started taking photographs of musicians. For them and for myself, not really to make money off it. I really just love doing it.
But you said a while ago that you were in London on assignment when you met Paul. What kind of an assignment was that for? Was it for a magazine, newspaper, what?
It was for a book somebody was doing, and also for myself at the same time. Any groups that I liked, I just would go and find out if I could take photographs of them. And I was always really surprised when they turned out well. And then I'd just give them to the groups and stuff, and they'd use them as publicity shots or in magazines, that kind of thing.
Do you keep it up? Are you still active in that?
Oh, I still take a lot of photographs. I don't publish it like I used to, because then I was very involved myself, and now I've got so much doing, I'm not as involved. But I still take a lot of photographs.
It's commercial time again. We'll be right back at you from London, and then we'll continue from New York after these announcements for the NBC television stations. We're back on the line now, and we have two other members of Wings joining, Paul and Linda McCartney. Laurence Juber, who's on guitar, and Denny Laine, who's on guitar. And I've never met you gentlemen before, so I'll have to ask Laurence, and I'm sorry for this, to please raise your hand, Laurence, if you're there. All right, that's Laurence there, so obviously it's Denny on the other side. I got to do commercials again, but
Good,
since
Tom, that was good.
it's the best I can do with what I've got, you know. I've got to do just a couple of more spots here, and now that we see that you're all together, we'll be right back to talk with all four of you after these final words from our sponsors, so stay tuned. Back with Paul and Linda and Denny Laine, who is in the red tie, for those who are don't have their programs with them, and Laurence Juber, both who are guitarists with Wings. Denny, you've been with Wings for 8 years now. How did you get into the organization?
Well, I knew Paul from before. I knew him. I was in the Moody Blues, and we used to do gigs together. In fact, they invited us to do one of their tours, so I got to know him through that. And I was bumming about, and he called me up. Simple as that, really.
And Laurence, how did you come to Wings?
Well, I was doing studio work in London, and I was working on a TV show, and Denny was a guest artist. And
I still get a percentage of this.
Yeah.
So
And
Denny was a
it,
guest artist, and
we got on fine, you know. I was backing him up in the group, and he asked me to come down and have a play with the rest of the band. So I did, and it seemed to work out, and here I am.
like, did you have to do an audition or something like that?
Not really. I got a phone call saying, can you come down and play? And I wasn't really expecting anything to come out of it. And we just played some rock and roll tunes. I'm glad they never asked me to play any Wings tunes, because I couldn't anyway.
Paul, when you're looking for new musicians, if somebody leaves the group for one reason or another, how do you find them? What are your sources?
Well, you know, in ways like that, really, you just kind of check around, see who you know yourself, or see who your friends know, who they think's good. And Denny had been talking about Laurence, and he said he was a fair old guitar player. So like Laurence said, we had him come down to the basement where we work, and we played with him. And even though he doesn't know it, it was an audition.
How do you know if they're right for the group or not? It's just the way they sound, how they blend in?
Yeah, I suppose you've been doing it long enough, you can tell what you like. And a lot of it's just to do with the feeling. Yeah, if it just feels right, then you can pretty much tell by watching how he plays whether he can cover stuff or not. And he's very versatile, and it felt good. So that was it.
Denny, sometime back,
It felt good.
you dedicated an album to Buddy Holly, didn't you? Called Holly Days, as I recall, or something.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have the. What began your interest in Buddy Holly and his work?
Well, I was a big fan of Buddy Holly's, obviously. I mean, Paul was too. In actual fact, we always used to play those kind of songs as sort of jams. It's always, we knew those songs years ago, so if we ever needed something to have a little loon on, we'd sing Buddy Holly songs or Elvis songs or whatever. The thing was, I mean, it was obviously linked with the fact that Paul had some of the copyrights on the songs, but it wasn't really just that, you know. I want to make this clear. It really wasn't just that. I mean, in actual fact, Paul did a lot of the backing tracks for that. I went up to Scotland for a holiday, believe it or not, but there you go. Ended up as work, and but it was good fun. So we made that album very quickly in a couple of weeks, I think.
Paul, have you seen that picture done here, the Buddy Holly story?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
As I was watching that picture here a couple of years ago and looking at it, you know, I grew up with Buddy Holly. I was a teenager when he was at his prime and his most popular. And at the time, none of us who listened to him really knew how good he was and how professional he was and what a contribution he made to American music. Okay, you
I
did.
did, Tom.
Okay, Linda, you did because you were more into it than I was. And now look, just thinking about the Beatles, and I know you don't like to talk about that.
I don't mind talking about the Beatles. A good group, Tom.
Okay. When the Beatles came here on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 and America first started listening to their music, we had no idea what a contribution you were making to American music. So it leads to the question, finally, why does it take audiences so long to catch on to the fact that here is a group or an individual who is making a really important contribution to the arts, in this case, music?
I think it's the mass audience that takes the long time, because, you know, it does take a long time for a lot of people to catch on. But I think, like Buddy's thing, all the kids at the time, a lot of my friends anyway, were well and truly into him from the very first record they heard. And I think a lot of our hardcore Beatle fans were very into us. I think it's the mass audience of, let's say, the Ed Sullivan Show or something like that took a little longer to catch up. But the kind of underground thing was all there right from the word go.
When you
we were hearing things. Sorry, I was just going to say, when we were in England, we were beginning to hear from people who'd been to visit the States, even before we went there, that there was getting to be an underground thing about us. So it was there.
So when you came here for the Ed Sullivan Show, you knew that the reception would be what it was?
No, not really. We got the plane from London, and we were expecting things to happen because we'd always said we wouldn't come to America unless we had a #1 record. And we had that #1 record, so I Want to Hold Your Hand. So we were coming, but we didn't realize how big it would be. And when we got off the plane at the airport and saw all the people, like there were millions of people and stuff, and cops and everything, and Murray the K, to mention but a few.
Murray the K was there, huh?
Hey, Murray! Yeah, he was there. And so that was the shock, you know, actually seeing how big it was. We'd heard it was going to be okay, but we didn't know it was going to be that big.
I was told that you will not answer, you will not sit still for questions about will the Beatles ever get back together again, or when will they sing again, or all that stuff. So shake up a little bit, because you won't sit still for it.
Are you going to ask me?
No, I'm not going to ask you. I've been told not to. They told me if I ask, you get up and you walk out of there, and I can't afford that to happen, you see.
Okay.
But let me try it this way. And if you get
Yeah.
offended, then you can walk halfway out and come back in again, all right?
Okay, Tom.
Do you get as wistful for that time as many of us do? And wish somehow it could all happen again?
No, I look back on it and remember that I loved most of what went on. But obviously, like, it can't happen again. It's really like trying to get back your childhood summers or something. If you're not too thick, you know that that can't happen again. So I just look back on it and remember that I kind of really enjoyed most of it. And I leave it at that kind of thing. I'm wistful, but actually, I wouldn't like it to happen again because we've done it once. It'd be boring second time.
And also difficult to top yourself.
Very, Tom.
What about the rumor that was going around one time that you had died and there was a double standing in for you?
It's not true.
No, obviously not.
I can categorically state that right now, Tom. I'm almost alive.
Well, I mean, did you laugh about it? Was it fun for you or crazy time?
Yeah, it was actually, because the man from our office rang up and he said, it's on the press that you're dead. I said, well...
Typical of the press, isn't it?
What a super wake-up call.
Yeah, that was great. I said, oh, thanks, yeah, fine. And he said, what do you want to do about it? I said, there's not a lot I can do about it, actually. And so we just let it ride, you know, there was nothing else we could do. I just came out with a couple of statements and said, you know, like, what was it, Mark Twain one, rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated.
Exactly.
Somebody said that.
And the last little bit of trivia I have in the back of my head, do you still imitate Little Richard?
Oh, yeah, definitely, Tom.
Did you really
Yeah.
do that?
Oh, yeah, that was the whole thing when I started out. Yeah, everyone used to imitate. In fact, they still are. But he was one of my particular ones. You know, I used to do Little Richard, Elvis, and a bit of Jerry Lee. You know, we used to do them all, really, but Richard was my speciality. And I hope you're watching, Richard, because, all right, man, how you doodling?
You probably know the word.
Beautiful.
You probably know the words to Tutti Frutti by heart.
Yeah, I know them.
Tutti frutti.
I'm still not doing it, though.
No, I know. But Linda is next door, and she's right on key. My time is gone, but thank you all for doing this from London. I hope it was...
Hey, Tom. Great. Listen, happy Christmas to all of you out there on Mars. And we'll see you when we get there.
When you coming back?
Nice talking
When
to
you coming back to the States, gang?
I think next year, maybe. So I hope to see you then.
Next year's a long time.
It is, Tom.
Oh, but I mean,
It's
can
about
you?
10 days, isn't it?
No, we haven't got any definite things. That's why I say next year, maybe. Nobody's set anything up yet, but we hope to come next year.
You come to a show, Tom.
I sure will.
We'll treat you right.
Oh no, just treat me. Thank you all. Happy Christmas to you. Good night, Paul.
Happy
Good night,
Christmas.
Linda. Good night, Lawrence, and good night, Dennis. Thank you again.
Good night.
We will
See you,
continue.
America.
See you right after this for the NBC television stations.
Oh, you will?
It's my new Christmas button here. Looks fantastic. My thanks to Paul McCartney and Linda and all the members of Wings, and our special thanks to our friends at TVI, Television International in London, and their production manager, Mr. Ken Morman. Thank you all for watching. Happy, happy holidays, and from New York, good night, everybody.
The mood is right, the spirit's up. We're here tonight, and that's enough. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. The party's on, the feeling's here. That only comes this time of year.